Good afternoon, students. Today we will try to understand what are the approximation methods that are available in quantum mechanics. These approximation methods are actually essential. Why? Because that we don't have any exact solution for the any other atom other than hydrogen atom. Okay. Why we need the approximation methods? It is essentially is because of this reason that we have the hydrogen atom Hamiltonian is shown here on the slide. Okay, it has got the 6 coordinates, three set of coordinates required to describe the nucleus, and similarly 3 set of coordinates required to describe the position of the electron. And this particular problem we have tried to address, and we have solved it in a different way. So after converting this Hamiltonian into translational and relative coordinates, we have got a Hamiltonian. That particular Hamiltonian we have written in the polar coordinates, and finally we have solved the hydrogen atom Schrodinger equation. Okay, and we got the solutions which have a set of solutions like the radial solution and another angle dependent solutions are actually spherical harmonics. Both are present in the final solution of the hydrogen atom, right? And the amount of pain that we have taken is quite huge. And you just imagine, suppose if you have a next simplest atom, that is helium. Okay, suppose if you have a helium atom and if we are interested in finding out the wave function and its eigenstates. So any problem that we would like to solve in quantum mechanics, actually it starts from writing the Hamiltonian. So let us write the Hamiltonian for the helium atom, which is the second simpler atom, right? And how do we write the Hamiltonian for helium atom? Well, we have a nucleus, okay, and then we have 2 electrons, and the 2 electrons are shown with the yellow color in the slide. You can see here. So there is 1 electron, there is another electron, right? So now, since we have more than 1 electron, so we have to have the repulsion also. We have to have the repulsion also. Apart from the attraction, the electrons do repel each other, right? So now let us label these distances. Okay, the distance between the electron number 1. Okay, I consider this is my electron number 1, and the distance between this electron number 1 and the nucleus is labeled as R1. Okay, where R1 is the distance, right? And the R2 is the distance between the electron number 2 and nucleus, and R12 is the distance between the 2 electrons. Right. So this is the way that we are starting with, because these are required to write down the potentials. Well, so the Hamiltonian of any given atom or any given system will comprise of kinetic energy components as well as the potential energy components. Okay, since we have the 3 particles, okay, let's combine the entire particles which are present in the nucleus is taken to be 1 unit. Therefore, so we don't write it separately. So for the nucleus, we have the nuclear coordinates, right? Kinetic energy component will be there. So that is the first term in this particular Hamiltonian. And then we have got 2 electrons. So for 2 electrons, we have got the kinetic energy components. Okay, and then what else we have is the potential energy. So the nucleus is interacting with the electron number 1 and the electron number 2, right? Therefore, there are 2 potential energy terms. At the same time, the electron repelling each other. So therefore, we have the repulsion term. Okay. So how many coordinates actually? Well, even if you try to simplify this particular problem by placing the origin at the nucleus, if you place the origin, I mean the coordinate system at this particular nucleus, then what happens is that even the nucleus is, if the nucleus is moving, then that particular motion is taken to be negligible because the coordinate axis we are keeping over there itself. So even if you neglect this particular first term, okay, that is possible, well, by placing the origin at the center of the nucleus, then it is possible that we can omit the first kinetic energy term, right? And then even in that case also, will have 6 coordinates. Okay, we will have 6 coordinates. Okay, so and then 6 coordinates, and then apart from that we have the 3 potential energy terms. So there are 5 terms in the Hamiltonian. So just a simple example, what we have seen, hydrogen atom has got 3 uh, polar coordinates, and then it has got 1 potential energy term. So that itself we have undergone a series of steps, and then finally we could achieve. Okay, but then this particular problem is concerned that many people have tried to solve it exactly by following the method what we have done it. Okay, the method is very simple. That to describe the method is very simple, but then to practice it in reality it is very difficult. Okay, so the total solution has to be written in a 6 different it may be taken to be the product of 6 different functions. Okay, and then you have to write down the Schrodinger wave equation, separate it first, different expressions, wherein one differential equation will contain only one variable, and the other differential equation contain other differential equation. So like that, we have to use that separation of variables method, and then after achieving the differential equation, one has to solve it. That is a process. Okay, so it is highly tedious job. Many people have attempted it, but then they could not succeed. Okay, to find out the exact solution of the helium atom. Okay, the simplest atom is the hydrogen atom, which we have got the solution. But then other than hydrogen atom, we don't have the exact solution, mainly because that it is very difficult to solve the Schrodinger wave equation of any given atom. If the helium is of this kind of problematic, then other helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, and the other elements in the periodic table, it is highly difficult to solve. Okay, and this is the background on which the approximation methods came into the picture. Okay, so Schrodinger wave equation of atoms other than hydrogen atom cannot be solved exactly. Therefore, we need some approximation methods. Okay, well, we don't have exact thing, but then at least we try to have some duplication, right? Wherein we try to why we need it? Well, to understand the system, we need it, right? So if you want to do some better chemistry, first of all, we should know how how the helium atom behaves, right? And then similarly, all other atoms, we just wanted to know their eigenstate and then eigenfunction, so that we can describe the atoms in a better way, and then we can interpret the properties in a better way. Now, what are the approximation methods? Well, broadly, the approximation methods in quantum mechanics are actually classified into 2 methods. One is the perturbation method, and this perturbation method is, well, the definition of perturbation is very simple. That okay, perturbation means it's a kind of disturbance, right? So this comprises of a series of mathematical methods to find out the approximate solution to a problem of your interest. Okay, starting from relatively simpler system. Okay, in this method, okay, there is a system, and that system is somewhat similar to some other system whose solutions are exactly known to us. Then by taking the solutions of the similar system and correcting it, and each eigenstate and each eigen energy, correcting it to further level is actually the perturbation method. Okay, so we will start with in this method. This theory actually comprises of a series of mathematical methods which involve that we will consider a simpler problem. Okay, we will consider a simpler problem which actually resemble, which is whose solutions are exactly known to us. and then we'll try to correct it, those eigenstates and eigenfunctions, so that we get the system which we would like to find out its solutions. Okay, that is the perturbation method. The other method is variation method. In this method, what we do, we try to most of the time we are not interested in all the solutions of any given system. So most of the time, what is required is that at least, okay, ground state, what is the energy of the system and what is the wave function of the system. So these are something that are really interesting to most of us. Therefore, instead of going through a rigorous process of solving the Schrodinger wave equation, let us at least try to find an approximate ground state wave function and similarly approximate ground state energy of the system. Okay, so this is possible by variation method. Okay, so these two methods are having their own strategy to find out the approximate solutions. And among these two, the variation method is something that which is very much reliable, and then it does not involve so much of mathematical treatment, unlike the perturbation treatment. Okay, so we will try to see these quantitatively how these methods really work. Okay, so let us start with the perturbation method. So perturbation method, what is perturbation method? Perturbation is an alteration or change of a system to a small extent. Any small disturbance to a system can be taken to be perturbation. Okay, you have a system. That system, the system identically, you know it very well. Its eigenstates and eigenfunctions are very much known to you. Now, the system, suppose you make a disturbance, a small disturbance, then it changes, right? Now, if you want to find out the solutions of the perturbed system, I mean after disturbance, then what you have to do is, usual process is that you try to write down the Schrodinger, you try to write down the Hamiltonian and operate the Hamiltonian and operate it upon the suitable wave functions, and then write down the Schrodinger wave equation, and then basically you solve it. That is a procedure. But in this method, we don't do that, as we started with a simpler system, which is basically undergone a disturbance or perturbation. Now this, before disturbance, its solutions are, everything is known to us. Okay, now those solutions we try to correct it so that we get the solutions of the perturbed system. That is the overall idea of this one. Now I was talking about what is perturbation. So perturbation is a small disturbance. I made a point. Now in chemistry, at least, what type of things are taken to be a perturbation? Well, one of the example I just wanted to discuss is the replacing one or two atoms in a much bigger molecular system. Well, you just recall the example which I have described with regard to the particle confined to one-dimensional box. I made a point that particle confined to one-dimensional box is a model system of the conjugated molecules that we study in our chemistry, right? It is a model system. Now, the particle confined to one-dimensional box, solutions are exactly known to us, right? Now, exactly known to us. Now, I made a point that it is a model system to the conjugated molecules. Okay, conjugated molecule means that normally it comes to our mind immediately. Okay, C single bond, C double bond, C, okay, single bond, C double bond. So alternative, you have the single and double bonds. So that is the system. Benzene is one example, naphthalene is another example. Okay, beta carotene is another example, anthracene is another example. So these are conjugated molecules, right? Now you just imagine we have a hexatriene. Okay, we have a hexatriene conjugated molecule. Okay, 135 hexatriene. So in the hexatriene, so we have a total 6 carbon atoms. Of course, you have the hydrogen atom as well. And then in this skeleton, you knock out one of the carbon atom. That means out of the 6 carbon atom, one atom you knock out and replace with some other atom, maybe phosphorus, maybe nitrogen, or maybe some other thing. You just replace it, and that is basically what? Okay, the hexatriene solutions are known to us because the particle one-dimensional box, the box length is known, then basically its solutions and wave functions are known to us. Now we are actually replacing one of the atom from this hexatriene. Then this is basically a perturb. So that particular replacement we can actually take as a perturbation. So we have the molecular system. That molecular system solutions are exactly known to us. Now we just knocked out one of the atom because the chemist we would like to replace and we would like to substitute with the different functional groups. So all these things are possible. So in the conjugated skeleton, one of the atom you knock out and then replace with another atom. So that particular situation you can actually approximate it with a perturbation. Okay, similarly we will also apply some kind of electric and magnetic field. So during the process of studying the materials properties that we prepare in our laboratory in a day-to-day life, we try to apply different electric field and magnetic field for a shorter duration of time. So those things actually if you can take it as a perturbation. So okay, those things you can take it as a perturbation. Similarly we also apply light. Okay, we also allow the molecule to operate upon the light, and then light matter interaction is of course is even now it is a great importance, and then it is a matter of subject in the spectroscopy. So these are all things that we can take it as a perturbation. Okay, perturbation is, don't think that it is an alien. It is just, maybe you can replace one of the atom, or maybe you can apply electric field to a molecule, to a material, or maybe you can apply a magnetic field. Okay, or you can just apply a light to a matter that you have prepared. So these are all things that we can take it as a perturbations. Now when you perturb the system, what exactly happens from the quantum mechanics perspective? Well, the Hamiltonian of the system changes to a small extent. Okay, to a small extent. And what we should do exactly to find out the solutions of perturbed system? Well, this particular theory I already pointed out that. So we try to make a successive correction to the unperturbed system whose solutions are exactly known, and to achieve the perturbed system solutions. That is the simple one single line procedure that we adopt in this particular perturbation theory. Okay, so let us consider a non-degenerate system. Let us consider a non-degenerate system, and whose solutions are exactly known to us. Okay, and the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation of that particular system can be written like this. So H psi is equal to E psi. Please note here that I have written slightly different manner. So there is a superscript 0. Within the bracket, there is a superscript and there is a 0. So 0 indicates that the system is unperturbed. So we have two situations, perturbed system and unperturbed system. So the 0 indicates that the system has not undergone any perturbation. Okay, and the H0 means it is the Hamiltonian of the unperturbed system, and the psi n of 0. Okay, psi n of 0. What is n stand for? N stand for the quantum number. Just imagine the particle confined to 1D box, 2D box, or 3D box, or maybe a hydrogen atom. So wherever, whatever we have studied, so all the wave functions are actually associated with the corresponding wave the quantum numbers, and n actually stands the quantum number, right? So depending upon the states, for different eigenstate, we can have different eigenfunctions. Well, that is the n. And then this 0 indicates the unperturbed system. Okay, when unperturbed Hamiltonian operates upon the unperturbed wave function, we get the eigenvalue, and then we will also get back the eigenfunction. That is the. Now let us imagine that this particular system is subjected to a small perturbation, and in this situation, as I already pointed out, the Hamiltonian is going to change a little bit. Now in this case, what we can write, the perturbed system Hamiltonian can be written as the summation of the unperturbed Hamiltonian plus the perturbed Hamiltonian. Okay, plus the perturbed Hamiltonian. This is the unperturbed system Hamiltonian plus the alpha times H1. What is 1? 1 indicates that it is a perturbed Hamiltonian. Okay, there should be some kind of distinction between the perturbed and unperturbed Hamiltonian, right? Now, this particular H1 is actually the Hamiltonian that correspond to the perturbation. Okay, as I told you that you have unperturbed system. That unperturbed system, you actually disturbed it by applying maybe a electric field, maybe by applying a magnetic field, or maybe applying a photon, right? Light. So all these things are perturbations. So this H1 indicates the Hamiltonian that correspond to the perturbation. Okay. Now there is a Hamiltonian that correspond to the perturbation, and there is another Hamiltonian that correspond to before perturbation, that the Hamiltonian of the system is given by H0. So add them together, that gives you the total Hamiltonian of the perturbed system. Okay, so now here one particular thing that I just wanted to point out, alpha. Alpha is the perturbation parameter, and it actually describes the extent of which the system is actually perturbed. Okay, so you can talk about how much it is basically perturbed. Okay, if you want to measure the extent of perturbation that the system has undergone, then you need to have a parameter. That parameter is actually alpha. That parameter is alpha. Okay, now you can see that the alpha is the perturbation parameter. If alpha changes, the extent of perturbation of the changes, and accordingly the Hamiltonian also changes. The Hamiltonian of the perturbed system, that is H of alpha. Why alpha it is written? Because that the Hamiltonian of the perturbed system depends upon the extent at which it was actually disturbed. Right? That is why H of alpha it is written. H is a function of perturbation. H is a function of perturbation. Therefore, it is represented with H of alpha, where alpha in my notation I try to use it alpha as the extent of perturbation. Okay, it is a perturbation parameter. Now what we can do, ideally what we should do, this Hamiltonian, this perturbed Hamiltonian, that is H of alpha, when it operates upon suitable wave function, I mean, you can take that psi n of alpha. Okay, you can take that psi n of alpha. Okay, since the system has undergone perturbation and its wave function corresponding eigenstate, the energy states, everything going to change. Ideally, what we should do is that we should try to solve the time-independent Schrodinger wave equation. That is, the H psi is equal to E psi. Instead of H, that we have the Hamiltonian, perturbed system Hamiltonian, and then when it operates upon suitable wave function, well, please remember that if the system is undergone a perturbation, then the wave function changes. Then naturally the eigen energy also changes. Okay, ideally we should solve this, but then we are dealing with a system which is complicated, which cannot be handled by a simple method of solving the Schrodinger wave equation, right? Therefore, as we don't have exact solution, then we are trying to approach the perturbation theory. So therefore, it is suggested that, okay, well, this originally the system is this particular perturbed system is having some solutions. Unperturbed system is having exact solutions, right? Now after perturbation, then it has changed. Now what is it is suggested in this method? Okay, the wave function and the energy of the state or the eigenstates can be expressed in terms of Taylor's expansion series, in terms of the perturbation parameter, like this. Okay, the wave function which is wave function of the perturbed system, which is a function of the perturbation, may be expressed in terms of Taylor's expansion series in terms of the perturbation parameter. what is psi n of 0 plus, okay, psi n of 0 plus alpha times psi n of 1, alpha times psi n of 1 plus alpha square plus psi n of 2 plus alpha cube multiplied by psi n of 3 plus and so on. And the series actually continues. Similarly, the eigenstate of the perturbed system, it is suggested that it can be calculated by using a Taylor's expansion series in terms of the perturbation parameter. Okay, this is the perturbation parameter. And now in this expression, if you consider the wave function expression, so you can see here psi n of 1, psi n of 1. That means what is 1 here? Here 1 stands for the first order correction, first order correction to the wave function. Then this particular term, that 2 indicate the second order correction, second order correction. Well, you can see that how it is expressed. You have the, what is psi n of 0? Psi n of 0 is the unperturbed system wave function. This plus, then alpha times psi n of 1. So the one correction we are doing, and then this is the second order correction, this is third order correction, this is the nth order correction. So we can make a successive series of correction to the actual wave function, that is the unperturbed system wave function, and then that those things you add them together, then you will get the complete solution of the perturbed system. Similarly, the eigenstate of the perturbed system, which is a function of the perturbation parameter, it is also expressed as the unperturbed system eigenenergy plus alpha times En of 1. 1 indicates the first order correction to the energy, and En2 is second order correction, En3 is the third order correction, and so on. Okay, so this is what the method is. Now what we can do is that, what is the first order correction to the this one? I think maybe before that, let me tell another point. You can see that alpha, what is the nature of alpha? Alpha is by default it is small. Alpha is by default it is small because our perturbation is small. Okay, and suppose alpha is a small number, and if you are taking the square of the function, square of the alpha, what will happen? It will be smaller or bigger?
Smaller.
Yeah. So if alpha is a positive number, then if you take the square, cube, and then 4, all those things actually will give bigger and bigger numbers. But then if alpha is already a smaller number, higher order terms are less important, whether you take the wave function expression of the expansion, Taylor's expansion series, or the eigenenergy expansion series. It doesn't matter. The higher order terms are less important because the variational parameter itself, it is a smaller number. Therefore, the square and then cube, all those things will be smaller. Now, what we do, that what is psi n of alpha, and then En of alpha, it is this quantity, and then psi n of alpha is this quantity. And come back to the actual time independent Schrodinger wave equation, h of alpha sin of alpha is equal to En of alpha multiplied by sin of alpha. So that is the Schrodinger wave equation. Now we are thinking that, so the eigenstates and then eigenfunctions are maybe expressed in terms of Taylor expansion series, in terms of the variational, the perturbation parameter. Therefore, you can actually substitute these values over here. Okay, so equation number 1 and 2 and 3 can be substituted in equation number 1. Okay, what is h of alpha? Well, in the previously we discussed, it is a summation of the unperturbed Hamiltonian plus the Hamiltonian that correspond to the perturbation. Therefore, all those things you can substitute here, and that is what done here. So this is the h of alpha. and this is the psi n of alpha, and this is the n of alpha, and this is the psi n of alpha. Now what we try to do that, okay, as you can realize that this is infinite power series, the wave functions are expressed in terms of the Taylor expansion series in terms of the the perturbation parameter, and it is infinite power series. So again, on the right hand side of this particular equation number 4, here also you have two series. This is energy expression series. Again, you have the wave function expansion series. Therefore, essentially, this is a infinite power series. And right hand side, you have infinite power series, and left hand side, you have infinite power series. And both are equal. Well, these are equal only when the coefficients of the alpha, okay, the coefficients of the same terms of the alpha on the both hand side, if they're equal, then it is okay. Okay, they're okay, otherwise not. Therefore, what we do, we try to compare the coefficients and then make it equal to 0. So this is routinely we have been doing this practice whenever we come across expansion series on both sides. We are trying to compare the coefficients. Well, that is what it is done here, and you can actually see that multiply it first of all. So and then take the coefficient where alpha is not there. Okay, where alpha is not there, and then similarly you can take wherever the alpha is there, those terms you can take it. Okay, similarly wherever alpha is there, you can take it, and then followed by wherever alpha square is there, those terms you just combine and try to and make it equal to 0, because in order to satisfy the equality, right? Now that is what done precisely here, that H0 sine of 0 minus En0 sine of 0. Okay, so that actually where alpha is not there, there are two terms will come. Okay, when you H0 multiplied with the sine of 0 on the left hand side, that will come. But this, when it multiplies this power series, it doesn't come, because this is having already alpha, so it doesn't come. So H0 sine 0. On the right hand side, what you get is actually, again, you have En0 when it is multiplying with the sine of 0. En0, when it is multiplying with the sine of 0, that doesn't have any alpha. Therefore, alpha to the power 0 means basically alpha is not there. Please ignore this term. Actually, I should have deleted this. I made a mistake. This term is not there. Okay, so there are two terms which doesn't have any alpha in the on the left hand side, and similarly on the right hand side. So those things I have written, and then similarly alpha terms are written here. Alpha terms are written here. Similarly, alpha square terms are written here. Okay, now so we will get different equations. Of course, I have written only 3 here for the sake of simplicity, but then you can keep on writing. You can write alpha cube, alpha to the power 4 terms. Likewise, you can write it. So I haven't done that. I haven't done this, but only these are enough for our discussion. But you can write it. So the series actually continues. The series will go to a infinity. Now we got 3 different equations. Okay, equation number 6, 7, 8. Okay, what are these equations? Let us look at carefully. Here H0 operates upon sin 0 minus En0 sin of 0 is equal to 0. Well, this is a known equation, right? This relation is very much known to us. H psi is equal to E psi. So it is the time independent Schrodinger wave equation of the unperturbed system. So there is nothing interest in this particular expression. What is interesting is the second, this is equation number 7 and 8. Why? Because here you can see what is the sine of 1. Okay, here sine of 1. Similarly, we have En of 1. Okay, what is En of 1? En of 1 is the first order correction to the energy. Similarly, sine of 1 is the first order correction to the wave function. Okay, first order correction to the wave function. So therefore, this is interesting. Similarly, again, if you look at here, that sine of 2, This is the second order correction to the wave function, and this is the first order correction to the wave function, and this is the second order correction to the wave function. Okay, and the second order correction to the energy, right? So these are very much interesting to us, this equation number 7 and 8. So we will try to calculate what exactly is the first order correction to the energy, right? That is the first one. Similarly, what is the first order correction to the wave function, and what is the second order correction to the energy? So these are something that we will try to calculate in the next 20 to 30 minutes. Why? Because these are important. So only when you know if you know exactly what exactly these things are, then you can actually add to a unperturbed system, and then that becomes the Hamilton, that becomes the wave function, or that becomes the eigenenergy of the perturbed system. Okay, so we have to know what is the general expression for first order correction to the energy of the system. Similarly, what is the first order correction to the wave function, and what is the second order correction to the wave function, second order correction to the energy, and so on. Okay, if you know these things, it is really nice that we can make approximate correction so that we get the solution for the perturbed system. Okay, we will do that. Well, the equation number 6 is written here, and we will try to evaluate what exactly is the quantity of the first order correction to the energy. This particular energy I wanted to evaluate. Now what it is done here, that this particular term and this particular term is kept to this side, and the remaining term is taken to be the other side. This one is moved to the other side of 0. Similarly, this is also moved to the other side of 0. Okay, right hand side both were moved. Okay, we can multiply the above expression with complex conjugate of psi n of 0. Okay, that is the first step that we can do, and when you do this, this is what we get it. Okay, this is what we get it, and in this particular expression is going to be 1, and here we have something, here we have something. So our Hamiltonian H0 is the unperturbed Hamiltonian. It is a Hermitian. Therefore, we can actually interchange these two, the position of psi n of 1 and also psi n of 0, and then we can take the complex conjugate of that. Well, the complex conjugate notation here, it is missing. Actually, you can interchange it, but then you'll have to keep a complex conjugate of that. Okay, that is missing complex conjugate, but you can keep it here in your notes. Okay, that is what precisely done here. So this quantity, I mean this term will become this, and this quantity I am keeping as such. I am not doing anything. And then this quantity also, this term is also it is unchanged, nothing has happened to it. Now this expression, the first term you can see here, that H0, when it is operating upon the unperturbed wave function, we get the eigenvalue and then corresponding eigenfunction back, right? Now this is what we get it. Please note that here also you can keep one complex conjugate. Okay, why we are doing this? Because the unperturbed Hamilton is the Hermitian. That is why we are doing this. Now you can realize that. So after this, you can take inside the complex conjugate. Then this already complex conjugate is there for this particular psi n of 1 star is there. The star and complex conjugate both cancel out, and then only complex conjugate will sit on the unperturbed Hamiltonian. Okay, and if you look at that, particular thing, this you can remove finally, and this also you can remove, and this left hand side, the two terms actually they are same. They are same in the sense that they can be actually cancelled with each other. Okay, I take a piece of paper and then try to work it out. Just use the Hermitian property and then you will get the answer. Then you can simplify that since the left hand side two terms are 0, only the right hand side is left. So finally what we get is the En of 1 is equal to sin of 0 star H1 sin of 0 d tau. That is the quantity. So what is En of 1? En of 1 is the first order correction to the energy of the perturbed system. Okay, first order correction to the perturbed system. Please recall that. Please recall that what is the first order correction exactly in the Taylor expansion series of the perturbed eigen function. That is nothing but En of alpha. It is expressed as E0 plus alpha times En of 1. Alpha times En of 1. I mean, this particular quantity is the actual first order correction. Okay, actual first order correction is actually alpha times En of 1. Alpha is essentially the perturbation parameter, right? So it actually indicates the extent of perturbation. So alpha times E1, that means whatever you evaluate, it is an integral sine of 0 star multiplied by the operator Hamiltonian multiplied by the sine of 0. So you are going to get something that you have to multiply with the perturbation parameter. Then that will give you the total first order correction. That will give you the total first order correction to the perturbed system. Okay, so we can actually continue our discussion and then we can evaluate the first order correction to the wave function of the perturbed system. Okay, for that, again, you will have to consider the same expression, that is the alpha, the coefficient of alpha need to be taken into the consideration. Okay, now this is the expression, but before that, let us try to uh, look at what is exactly first order correction to the wave function. The first order correction to the wave function, it is psi n of 1. Psi n of 1. Okay, so 1 indicates the perturbed first order correction. Now this may be expressed as a series of I think here, yeah. So we have used the property of the completeness. Okay, so the unperturbed wave function of the system basically forms a complete set, and the perturbed correction factor, if you want to write it down. So what we do, first of all, the perturbed correction to the first order correction to the wave function psi n of 1 may be expressed in terms of a series of uh, a series of wave functions which are not basically unperturbed, Please remember the completeness property of the eigenfunction. Completeness function property of the eigenfunctions. We know that the before perturbation, the complete solutions of the system is known, and the eigenfunctions actually form a complete set. If that is true, and if you consider the first order correction to the wave function, okay, as an arbitrary function, this arbitrary function can be expressed in terms of the known unperturbed wave function. How? Well, psi n of 1 can be written as C1 psi n of 0 plus C2 psi 2 of 0 plus C3 psi 3 of 0 plus C4 psi 4 of 0 and so on. Okay, now this is infinite power series on the right hand side that you can simplify and write it in a shorthand notation. Summation m runs from 0 to infinity, Cm psi m of 0. Cm psi m of 0. What is this? M is some number. Okay, m can be any number. So we can have different numbers starting from 0 to infinity. Okay, so what is Cm here? The Cm is the coefficient which need to be calculated. What is the exact value of for Cm? It has to be calculated. Okay, so since we are basically considering the first order correction to the wave function as an arbitrary wave function, which we don't know, we have to calculate. If you have an arbitrary wave function, and we know already the exact solutions of the unperturbed system and wave function basically, and the wave function unperturbed before perturbation, the wave functions are actually form a complete set. So that is the property we will make use of it and try to evaluate the first order correction to the wave function. Okay, now in this fashion we can write it like psi n of 1 as a summation m runs from 0 to infinity cm psi m of 0. Please remember that psi m of 0 indicates a set of eigenfunction which are actually belongs to the unperturbed system. Okay, now let us recall the expression equation number 7, wherein that we have the first order correction of the wave function is present, right? So that is the expression that we have to use it to calculate the first order correction to the wave function. And here, so wherever you have a psi n of 1, okay, so you can actually substitute this. You can actually substitute this. Okay, now that is what precisely done here. Okay, and then in the next step, so you can keep these two terms. In the next step, you can keep these two terms uh, on the left hand side itself, and then the other two terms you can move to the right hand side. Okay, and then here you can see here there is a H0, that is the Hamiltonian, right? Unperturbed Hamiltonian. The unperturbed Hamiltonian, you can take it inside the summation notation. So absolutely no problem. You can just move inside because anyway it is multiplying. That means it is multiplying each term. So let it take it inside. And the second term, anyway it is eigenenergy. So nothing happens here. We just keep it as such. And here you know that when H0 operates upon the eigenfunction psi m of 0, we will get the eigenvalue, right? We will get the eigenvalue. So that is what done here. So we got the eigenvalue. And then later these two terms you can two terms on the left hand side you can combine like this. You can see here also sin cm is there, here also cm is there. So summation m runs from 0 to infinity, and cm you can take it as a common factor, and the first term contains em0 minus the second term contains en0. Okay, en0, and then multiplied by psi m of 0. Where is psi m of 0? Psi m of 0 is here. Okay, psi m of 0 is here. Psi m of 0 is here. So psi m of 0 anyway it is there on the right hand side of the operator, it is there. So that we are carrying and we are writing here. Okay, now the left hand side you can continue all the terms, you can write it like this. Okay, you can write it like this. So, and finally after doing this, what we can do, we can just multiply the entire expression with a complex conjugate of the unperturbed wave function, that is some general term, that is psi lm of 0 star. Okay, it is essentially the eigenfunction of the unperturbed system, and we are multiplying complex conjugate of the unperturbed system, that we are multiplying the entire expression. The entire expression has to be multiplied. You can see here in this step, so we are multiplying it. Okay, and on the right hand side also we are multiplying. Please remember that right hand side we have two terms, we are multiplying it. Okay, now this particular cm you can move just the other side because it is just a number, it is going to be a number. So, and moreover not only that, this entire cm multiplied by em of 0 minus en of 0, this entire thing is a constant kind of thing. Therefore you can actually even take the outside also, outside the integral also. That is what it is done here. The entire thing, it is moved outside the integral because those are the simple numbers. And then integral psi l 0 star multiplied by, that is here actually integral, and then there is a one psi l 0 star, that is here, and then there is a psi m of 0 here. Okay, on the right hand side what we have is this is actually an eigen value. Therefore you can move to the other side of the integral, and then psi l 0 star multiplied by psi l 0 d tau minus, and this particular thing you can actually keep it as such. You don't have to do anything, just you keep it as such. Now here in this particular expression there are two things that can happen, especially if you look at the left hand side factor, that is this quantity. It is infinite power series. It is infinite power series. So here you have infinite terms of that on the left hand side. Now, and the integral, and corresponding to each integral, there is a corresponding to each term, there is an integral. That integral is psi L 0 star multiplied by psi m 0 d tau. Okay, so you have infinite terms are there, and then each term is multiplied by this integral. In this integral, only one particular integral will survive, and rest of the terms will actually cancel out. Why? Because you see here both these psi lm 0 star, okay, psi m 0. So 0 indicates the unperturbation, right? Before perturbation, the wave functions. These are actually orthonormalized. You remember that the unperturbed system wave functions are exactly known to us, eigenstates are exactly known to us. We know that the wave function actually form orthonormal. So they will be orthonormal. If they are orthonormal wave functions, then usually if L and M both are equal, only that particular integral actually will become 1. That means that particular quotient will survive, and other rest of the thing, if L not equal to M, rest of the things actually just simply vanish. Just simply vanish. So what is the answer? Only one term on the left hand side in the infinite series will survive. Rest of the things will actually vanish. So what is the coefficient of such a term? The coefficient of such term, actually, if L is equal to M, then integral that particular integral is going to be 1, and that particular coefficient is going to survive. So here, if L is equal to M, CL. So wherever M is there, you can replace with L. So CL minus EL0 minus EN0 is equal to, then you have the right hand side. So what you have on the right hand side, you have L and N. L and N. We don't know what is the relation between L and N. Suppose in this integral, okay, suppose if L is equal to N, and this particular term will survive, otherwise it will not survive. Okay, and the left hand side we have this coefficient, that CL multiplied by this EL0 minus EN0, that is there. Suppose if L is equal to N, okay, you can see here, if L is equal to N, and all the terms in the power series actually vanishes, right? Including the one already, if L is equal to M, only one term, particular term actually survived. All the terms are actually vanished. If that L, okay, if that L is equal to N, then the other thing also will survive. Why? Because here that it becomes En is equal to En0 minus En0, that is 0 basically. So the entire thing will vanish. Therefore, the condition what we get is L is equal to M, that is there, and apart from that, L must not be equal to N. L must not be equal to N. If that is the case, then this particular thing, if L is not equal to 1, not equal to N, then this particular integral actually becomes 0. Okay, it becomes 0. Therefore, what you get is actually on the left hand side, CL multiplied by EL0 minus EL0 is equal to, and this particular integral, that is the second integral, we have this. Second integral is integral psi L0 H1 psi N0. Okay, so please remember that H1 is the Hamiltonian that corresponds to the perturbation. Hamiltonian that corresponds to perturbation. Now CL, from this actually you can actually calculate. What is CL? CL is equal to, because CL multiplied by EL0 minus EN is 0, that factor you can move to the other side. So when you move the other side, it goes to the denominator, so that is here. Okay, so it is actually minus integral this factor and then divided by EL0 minus EN0. Okay, so this integral as a shorthand notation, what we use is that in a broad ket notations, people use it like this. So H in the metric elements, you can write it like this. HLN, this can be written as HLN. So this integral can be written in a shorthand notation like this. Okay. Now what we got is basically what is CL. Please remember that L is equal to M. L is equal to M. Now, what is the thing that we are trying to do? We are trying to find out. Well, we are trying to find out what is the first order correction to the wave function. That is actually initially we thought like this is summation m runs from 0 to infinity. This is what we thought, right? M runs from 0 to infinity, and that may be expressed in terms of Cm multiplied by psi m of 0, right? Now, this quantity is something that we have evaluated. Okay, please remember that the L and M both are same. So this quantity you can substitute here. That is what done here. So psi n of 1 is given by summation L not equal to 0 and L not equal to n. Okay, is equal to this factor. Okay, please remember there is a one negative sign, it is missed. Please correct it. Okay, so that is that object. So if you evaluate this particular integral, and then if you evaluate the energy difference, and that when it multiply with this wave function, that is the first order correction. And please remember the total first order correction always it is multiplied with the extent of perturbation parameter, that is alpha. Since we are dealing with first order corrections, so alpha to the power 1, that means alpha. So alpha multiplied by psi n psi n 1 is actually is the first total first order correction. So that you can actually show it like this. Okay, so please note down here also there is a one negative sign that you must try to keep it in your notes. It is missed actually. So try to keep the negative sign here also. Well, that is the total first order correction to the wave function, and we can also continue and then we can evaluate what is the second order correction to the energy. The second order correction to the energy is having a significance in chemistry. You may recall that the what is a van der Waals interaction. So van der Waals interaction is the long range interaction that is present between any two molecules or atoms. Okay, when they are actually very far apart, then initially there is attraction at longer distances. So the electron cloud of the one particular molecular system, if you are talking about molecules, so the electron cloud of one molecule, the electron cloud of the other molecule, both get actually attracted, and then so as a result of which you will have attraction energy. Okay, and this van der Waals interaction is, many people claim that it is an attraction energy. If it is an attraction energy, the energy has to be negative. Okay, so this theoretical evidence for the attraction or it is a repulsion, it is actually provided by the second order correction to the energy of the system. From the perturbation theory, it is actually proved that. Why? It is attraction. Why it is attraction? Why it is attraction? That particular answer is given by the perturbation theory. Okay, and if you think that the two molecules are approaching each other at longer distance, of course it is not actually a shorter distance interaction, it is a longer distance interaction. The at longer distances will have some type of interaction. That interaction can be attractive or a repulsion. Okay, and then if it is attraction, there should be a negative sign. Okay, energy expression, when you try to calculate, there should be a negative sign. If it is a repulsion, there should be a positive. So let us look at then, if you are able to calculate what is the first order correction to the energy of the system, then if you are getting a negative sign, then you can conclude that it is attractive. If it is if you are not getting a negative sign, then it can be a repulsive energy, a repulsion and a repulsion interaction between them, right? And so according to this perturbation theory, what they thought was that the the disturbance, okay, you have one molecule and you have another molecule, okay, and this molecule is at longer distance. They are not really interested to look at each other. They are having their own anesthetic. They are very happy. But then there is a long force interaction is there. That long force interaction is something that you can take it like a perturbation, okay. You can take it like a perturbation. So you have one molecule or one atom, and then at a slightly far away, you have another atom or the molecule is present. Now the interaction of one on the other can be taken as a perturbation, vice versa. It is possible. And that if you treat it qualitatively, then quantitatively, then you will get energy expression, okay. And the second order correction can be second order correction to the energy can be calculated, and then we can look at exactly whether it is attraction or the repulsion. So that is why this has a great significance in perturbation theory. Then to calculate the second order correction to the energy, so let us actually find out the expression, the equation number 8. Please recall that equation number 8, which we have obtained some time back. Then that is the expression wherein you can find the second order correction to the energy. Where is it? Well, this is the second order correction to the energy. What is this? This is the first order correction to the energy, and this is the second order correction to the energy is given by this. Therefore, that particular expression one has to write here, and then it has to be 0. Okay, this entire, all these 5 terms have to be 0. Then what you can do, this only one term you can move to the other direction. Okay, the second order energy term, the second order correction to the energy term, you can move to the right hand side and then write the expression here. And you can simplify this. You can combine the terms. For example, H0 psi n2, and then En0 psi n2. Okay, here what you can do here, you just combine these two terms. H0 minus En0, H0 minus En0 psi n2 plus, and these two you can combine here, combine like H1 minus En1 multiplied by psi n1. What is psi n1? Psi n1 is the first order correction to the wave function. And just now we have evaluated what is exactly that quantity. Now the entire expression you can just multiply with the psi n0 star, with the psi n0 star. Now and then integrate it over the entire space. That is what done here. So entire expression, it is multiplied, and then it is also integrated over the entire space. So now what we can do, some type of simplification we'll do, like this is the expression, right? This expression, it becomes 1. Why? Because both are orthonormalized functions. Therefore, we can write it, that simplification we can do immediately. And what else can be done? Well, let us look at this expression, especially the first expression. So you have this particular term, the first term. This particular term, actually what we can prove is that this will vanishes. This will vanish. That we will basically this becomes 0. Why? Because that Hermitian property is something that we can make use of it, and then we can show that this will vanish. Okay, so that is the exercise that I have done in the next step. This first term in the expression, it is nothing but you can expand it like this. Okay, you have psi n0 star multiplied by H0 multiplied by, on the right hand side you have the psi n2, right? Minus En sin of 2 is there, but then on the left hand you have the psi n0 star. So integral, and then it is there. Now H is the Hermitian, therefore what you can do, that you can interchange, since H is a Hermitian, you can interchange these things and then take a complex conjugate of that. Okay, take a complex conjugate of that. So now you can prove that there are two terms, and then both terms, this term, right? This term and this term basically essentially same. If those are same, then the entire first term in the expression can be 0. Okay, please note that I have not kept the complex conjugate notation here. Otherwise, you may confuse it, because a slight difference or variation you can find here, because this is not same. Psi n2 star, and then there is a en0, and then psi n0. But here psi n0 star is there. Okay, but then the complex conjugate notation is not here. Okay, so that I have made a mistake. So the entire expression, when I'm using the Hermitian property, after interchanging, first we have to interchange it, and we have to take the complex conjugate of the entire integral, entire term. So that is something that I have made a mistake, but you should correct it in your notes. And now, if you do that, what essentially we get is that, okay, I already pointed out this term is vanishes, and only this term will survive. And right hand side, it is very much evident that this is going to be 1, because these are orthonormal functions. Therefore, the integral psi n0 star multiplied by psi n0 d tau, it will be 1. Okay. Now, essentially, what we get is en2 is equal to this quantity. So that is what it is done. Okay. Now, in this expression, you can further do a small modification. What is the modification? Psi n1, what is the quantity? We know already, isn't it? What is psi n1? It is the first order correction to the wave function, is known to us, right? So that particular object you can actually substitute. But before that, you can actually expand it, and then later on you start applying that object. Okay, so basically the terms are expanded here. You can see here the terms are actually expanded here. Psi n0 star. Okay, or else you can apply it. That is also no problem. I think I have done this part. Basically, this part is nothing but this has come from the first order correction to the wave function. Okay, please note that. And this particular object is moved outside the integral. Okay, this particular object, that is the summation into m runs from 0 to infinity, and m not equal to 1, n, that is moved outside the integral, because the integration doesn't affect, and rest of the things are kept here as such. And later, what we have done is that we have expanded the terms inside, and this is nothing but so this and then this. Similarly, this and this, right? There are two terms, psi n0 star multiplied by h1 multiplied by psi m0 d tau minus integral psi n0 star en1 psi m0. Okay, that is that object. Now, any simplification we can do here? Here itself we can do that simplification. This term, then notice here, this term, this is the en is the eigenvalue. So eigenvalue doesn't affect, you can just take it outside, and then psi n0 star multiplied by psi m0. These are actually unperturbed wave functions, right? Unperturbed system wave function, integral psi n0 star psi m0 star. This particular thing vanished. Why? Because already the summation is running from 0 to infinity, m runs from 0 to infinity, and m not equal to n. If m not equal to n, this will be 0, right? So therefore, this particular term is neglected, and en2 is equal to summation m runs from 0 to infinity, and m not equal to n, cm multiplied by this term. Okay, that particular term. And in this expression, you can notice here, what is this? So in the shorthand notation and the matrix element notation, we can write this as a HMN. What is CM? What is CM? Because CM is nothing but H. Actually, there we have written like LN, HLN, but L is nothing but M. Therefore, we can actually simply modify that and then write it. So the coefficient CM is substituted here, and this particular object we can actually replace with another shorthand notation. That is, you can see here psi n star, okay, Hamiltonian multiplied by psi m 0, right? So that particular object you can use this shorthand notation. Essentially, that our second order correction to the energy is going to be, there is a negative sign, then integral 0, m runs from 0 to infinity and m not equal to n. And here you have two matrix elements. One is HMN multiplied by HNM divided by EM minus EM. EM minus EM. Okay, now you can see that how these two things are different. These two things are very much same, but one is a complex conjugate of the other one. That's the only difference. Therefore, what you can do, instead of writing HMN and then HNM, you can take the square of that. So it's the modulus of HNM of 1, modulus square it. You just take the square of it. Okay. Now this is the object that you get it finally. Okay. So it is the square of this particular matrix element. That is, that object is nothing but integral psi n star, of course psi n 0 star multiplied by the Hamiltonian that correspond to the perturbation and multiplied by psi m d tau. So that is that object. So it is the square. You have to basically evaluate the integral and take the square of it. So obviously you can see here that particular object is going to be a positive number, and you can apply for a ground state. You can take n is equal to 0, right? And n is equal to 0. Okay, you can just apply and then evaluate for a ground state what is the energy. For a ground state, n is equal to 1. Please remember that n is equal to n is equal to 1 or 0. You can substitute that depends upon the system. Let us take n is equal to 0 for ground state. Okay, so now the ground state, this is an energy correction to the second order correction to the energy. Okay, and if you take n is equal to 0. Okay, in this expression you can look at here that this is a square of some integral, and in the denominator part you can again see here m we are taking as a 0. Okay, n we are taking as a ground state, and the ground state energy is here sitting on the right hand side, right? So there is some energy em0, and then minus, we are subtracting the ground state energy from the other one. So what is the answer? So this will be actually a positive quantity. So right, why? Because this is a ground state energy, we are subtracting from the higher energy. And then what about this? This is the square of the integral, it is a positive quantity. But then what is happening is that there is one negative sign sitting just outside the summation. Therefore, this particular object, that En, initially it was En, but then we replace for ground state energy correction, is going to be a negative quantity. It's going to be negative quantity. Therefore, this particular, of course, you can multiply this factor En thing for the total energy correction. I mean the second order total second order correction. You can actually evaluate by multiplying this object with the alpha, the extent of perturbation parameter. That you get the answer, but that is not necessary. The point I just wanted to discuss here is that, so this object is a positive quantity, this object is a positive quantity, but then this is a negative. So because of this negative, this energy is going to be negative. Okay, this energy. Now what is this object? This object is nothing but the second order correction of the energy. ground state, second order correction to the ground state energy. Okay, and this is becoming a negative quantity. Even if you multiply with a extent of parameter, that is the perturbation parameter, this is going to be negative quantity. Therefore, what is thing that we found is that the perturbation, the interaction between the interaction of one molecule or one entity upon the other entity is taken to be the perturbation. And if you treat it, actually that perturbation is going to be the second order correction. Okay, the second order correction to that particular perturbation, we can apply the perturbation theory, and then second order correction energy can be calculated, and that energy is actually going to be negative. So since the second order correction energy is going to be negative, then definitely that will be an attractive energy. Okay, that will be an attractive energy. So the interaction energy is an attraction energy. So in the long range, that the entities, molecular entities or the atoms will have an attraction at the longer distances. But as they approach together, the electron cloud of the one entity and the electron cloud of the other entity both repel each other. Therefore, there will be a repulsion energy. So at the long range, there will be attraction, but then as they approach together, there will be a repulsion. So the attraction, if it is attraction, then it has to be substantiated with the theory, and the theory is here. When two molecules or atoms are approaching each other, the interaction between the two can be treated like a perturbation, and the interaction energy can be calculated from the perturbation method. And from the above expression, what you see is that the second order correction to the energy is a negative quantity. Therefore, the interaction energy, since the interaction energy is negative, and the interaction has to be an attraction, not a repulsion, right? So with this, we have come to the conclusion of the perturbation theory. What we this method is very simple method to describe it, but then a rigorous process is there. So today, what is perturbation theory? We have learned, and first order correction, how it can be calculated, that we have learned. First order correction to the energy, first order correction to the wave function, and second order correction to the energy, we have done it. Of course, the second order correction to the wave function, we can take it up, but then it will take little time. So as we are short of time, so I'm just skipping that one. But if you are interested, you can explore that particular subject maybe later. And so why we have discussed all these things is that ultimately we wanted to understand the approximate wave functions and approximate eigen states or eigen energies of the systems which are complicated in nature, which cannot be solved exactly. Okay, and this is the method that we adopt. Well, to calculate the first order correction to the energy of any perturbed system, we have to calculate some integrals. Okay, and suppose if you want to calculate the second order correction to the energy, well, this particular object you have to evaluate. Okay, and after evaluating this object, and then you have to multiply with the alpha, that is the perturbation parameter, and then add this energy to the unperturbed system energy, then that will be your total energy of the system after perturbation. Okay, now suppose if you want to have the first order correction to the wave function, well, this is the object that you have to evaluate. This particular integral you have to evaluate. Similarly, the first order correction to the energy is being calculated, right? And that is nothing but this object. The first order correction to the energy expression is given by this object, alpha times En1. En1 is the first order correction to the energy. It is just an integral. What is the integral? It is just an integral involving the perturbation Hamiltonian, and then nothing but basically it is an expectation value, whether you noticed or not. But it is very clear that this is an expectation value involving the Hamiltonian, perturbation Hamiltonian of, and using the unperturbed wave functions. These are unperturbed wave function, right? So before perturbation, the wave function will have a general form of psi and 0, right? So it is essentially the expectation value of the Hamiltonian. Okay. So just to make the point, we have just discussed a couple of things in the perturbation theory. Of course, the problems, as usual, I am not going to discuss, but we will try to see after completing the other approximation method discussion, we will try to look at the helium atom problem. So that is the purpose for which I am discussing the perturbation theory. Similarly, we will discuss the variation theory. And having understood both these methods, we will try to apply these methods to the helium atom. We have the Hamiltonian, right? So we will try to have applied to the helium atom and see that which method is good and which method is not relatively good. We will try to understand. So that is the purpose, and then we are moving towards that particular direction.